What's up, guys? Danielle Alvari from VSiN here with Will Hill, also from VSiN. You can follow him on Twitter at @NotTheWillHill. Will Hill, our college basketball handicapping champion for the season, had to get him on to talk about the Final Four. We're talking Miami and UConn here. And before we came on here, I was asking you, I feel like everybody I know is on UConn -5.5 here, and yet we have not seen this tick up to 6 yet. Why do you think that is?
I think you get a lot of people who are sort of recreational bettors who are going to wait till the day of the game, a few hours before the game. Oh, yeah, UConn's playing. I'm going to bet on UConn. They've been killing everybody. So I do think we'll get sixes, maybe even 6.5. I don't think we'll get to a 7. I'm surprised it hasn't moved yet, but I'm still confident this closes at somewhere between 6, 6.5. I'd be shocked if we didn't get a 6. I'm 50-50 whether we get 6.5. I do think we'll start to see some money pouring on UConn as we get closer to game day, though.
Right. And this is the game between the two that has the higher total. It opened around 148.5. We've seen it move up to 149.5 now. 149 still in some spots. Do you think we're going to see a fast-paced game here?
Miami's an over team. They're really good on offense. They're not good on defense. UConn doesn't mind going up and down. So when it comes to Miami, I have a hard time betting under. UConn's been a machine on offense, just shooting the hell out of the ball. Really. So I would look at an over here. I hate to bet an under with any sort of Miami game.
Yeah, Miami can score. They're 5th in college basketball in Ken Palm's adjusted offensive efficiency metric, but they rank 104th in adjusted defensive efficiency. So like we were talking about in our other video previewing the FAU game, FAU a little bit more well-balanced than Miami in this situation. So where do you fall on this game? Which side do you like? Are you going UConn as well?
It feels square. It sounds square, but man, I have a hard time seeing past UConn. They have just been killing everybody. And everybody talked about how that was such a hard bracket they came out of with Gonzaga, with UCLA, with Kansas, TCU. It was a loaded bracket. And they made easy work of it. I mean, they haven't really been tested. It's funny. Iona, of all teams, had them down 2 at the half, but they blew past them. St. Mary's kept it close until it wasn't. Usually in the tournament, the games go harder as you go on. For them, the games have gotten easier. I mean, Arkansas was basically like a JV versus a varsity scrimmage. Gonzaga was not even close.
Oh, man.
So it's hard to see past UConn here. I just think they're better down low. I think Sonogo is going to command double teams, and he's gotten so good at passing out of those double teams. I think Miami will make some shots. They'll hang for a bit, but I think we'll get another double-digit UConn victory here.
Yeah, I could easily see that happening. This 5 is a little precarious because I know Miami can shoot, and so if it comes down to it at the end, we have these miracle 3-pointers happening, then that 5 looks a little bit sketchier, and then if we have something like a 2.5 like in the other game. But I'm glad you brought up Sonogo because their size has been such a big part of UConn's success, and in the paint, a literal tall task for the other teams here. But Miami has these really athletic, fast guards. Do you think that changes how they approach this?
I think they know they're not good on defense. So I think they know they're going to have to score, and they're not going to be able to win some, defensive grinded out type of game. So I think they know what their strength is. Larinaga is a good coach. They think, look, we don't guard anybody very well. We're going to have to win with offense. We're going to have to get into the mid-70s here. So I do think that affects it. And hey, if UConn gets cold from 3, that's the X factor in all these games. If Miami hits a bunch and UConn can't hit any from 3, we have a different story here, and Miami can move on. I just have a hard time seeing past UConn right now.
And we've seen crazier things happen so far, including a 11.5-minute stretch of somebody not scoring at all. I'm not going to name names, but we've seen crazier things this March. And one of the crazy things is just who ended up shaking out into the Final Four. I know that you had FAU in your Final Four, but most of America probably didn't because they don't listen to Will Hill, and they should. But were you surprised to see the teams that were in here besides FAU? Obviously, you had them in there. And are you disappointed with it? Because that's sort of the argument here is this going to be an all-time low audience for this Final Four? Because for me, this is what March is about.
I love it. I think it's fun. I do think the ratings probably won't be great because you don't have your Duke, your Kentucky, your North Carolina. The Blue Bloods aren't in there. But this is fun. It's different. It's a lot of fun. It's really similar to 2011. I don't know if you remember that one. It was VCU. It was Butler. And then you had UConn on the other side of it. So usually you get maybe one Cinderella in here, one mid-major. But the fact that you have 2 really makes it fun. I don't know how anybody could be surprised, though. I mean, it's all we talked about all year, how there's so much parity. There's no really great teams, although UConn's starting to buck that and look like a great team. So you can't be surprised with all the upsets because this was a league where this was a season where parity was really the theme of it.
Yeah, UConn, people like to remind too, has won 4 titles in the last 23 years, the most in that span, more than a lot of these blue blood programs. So give UConn some respect. Who is your champion in the end here?
I'd be surprised if UConn didn't win it. I actually think UConn's, of all the bets we talked about, I think UConn, you can get them like -120 to win it right now versus the field. I'd be shocked is extreme, but I'd be very surprised if UConn isn't holding up the trophy Monday night.
Who has the best shot of the other side of taking them down?
Florida Atlantic, just because they could get red hot
Yeah.
from three. I don't know if San Diego State has enough offense to beat them.
Yeah, I agree. Are you going to look at any props for this? Have you been betting props throughout this? Just out of curiosity.
Not really. Not really. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar enough with the college players. I'm more watching
Betting
the
on college
situations, betting live totals. I'm not one of these like in-depth player guys, so that's not really my strength. So nothing I really have a feel for.
And since you mentioned it, and before I let you go, live betting. Have you been live betting these? Are you going to be live betting these Final Four? Is there a game that you'll be looking to do that more in?
I'm usually looking to live bet the totals, which honestly it's gone okay, but not as good as I thought. And I think the fact that they've been using supposedly a new ball in the first couple rounds has really curbed
slippery.
scoring and has really sort of hurt my live betting game here because you get a lot of points at the end here where a team makes a three, they foul, and then they, when you make a three, when you're down, let's say 10, usually you foul for a couple more trips. A lot of times now in these games, the three's not going in, and these teams have just given up. We've seen the overs come back a little bit recently, but I'll always keep an eye on the live wagering and, the foul situation, the pace, always something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and something to keep an eye on as well, VSiN.com. I'm glad you brought up the ball part. I know Adam Burke wrote an article about this. I know that Gonzaga's head coach Mark Few talked about them using those new balls and not loving that. So these are the little details. These are the important things that you need to know. So make sure you check out VSiN.com for more of that. Thank you to Will Hill. Follow him on Twitter at @NotTheWillHill. Thanks, Will.
All right, TA, thanks for having me.